Welcome back to Garden Talk, brought to you by the Penn State Erie County Extension Master Gardeners. I'm your co-host for today, Mike Bailey, along with Ellen DePlacido. Good morning, Ellen.
Good morning, Mike.
Hey, the last few times, it seems like more than a few times, we've been talking about common insects in the vegetable garden. And in fact, the last 7 sessions, we've kind of talked about this. And today's going to be kind of our last session on this particular topic, and before we transition back to something else. But it's not going to be the last time we talk about insects. In fact, on the horizon, okay, we have a discussion of Japanese beetles coming up, so which is very important. But
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's all very worthwhile to take the time to do that, especially the common insects in the vegetable garden and how to take care of them. And today we're going to kind of wrap up this kind of topic with the discussion of the squash vine borer. And Ellen and I were talking before we came onto the recording of it. Says, did you ever see a squash vine borer adult before? And Ellen says, no, probably not. Okay, and even myself, I've only seen them a couple times, and I think most other people haven't seen them. And you don't probably see the eggs, and you probably don't see the larva. You just see the results of this whole thing. And we'll kind of walk through that as we go along.
Okay.
First of all, that squash vine borer, it certainly, is a big problem for squash and pumpkin plants in particular, and sometimes even cucumbers and melons. The larva itself overwinters in a cocoon in the soil, and it emerges in late June and early July. So we're getting to that particular point where this squash vine borer, could be a problem. And it's not until your zucchini and summer squash and other vine plants get to a certain size that thing really comes out and presents an issue. And it's
Mm-hmm.
the larva that causes the damage to the plant. It's the larva that is inside the stems, the major stems at the base of those plants, and where it's carving out and eating up and destroying the vascular system. And once the vascular system of that plant, starts to fall apart, of course, everything distal to that particular point is deprived of moisture and minerals and therefore dies off. But the adult is a moth, which has some colorful markings, some red markings when it spreads its wings. And it flies during the day, and it lays an egg, typically a single egg, okay, at the base of
Mm-hmm.
that plant, and that egg will hatch in about a week, and then it burrows into the stem itself, and it feeds, like I said, on that vascular system of the plant and disrupts that whole process, and it causes the death of that plant. And about the only telltale sign that you can see at this particular point is a sawdust type of material, again at the base of that plant, which is really the excrement of that larva. So you will see that the major stems of the plant start to look really different, okay, and start to look like something is attacking them. And you're right, it is. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then after about 4 to 6 weeks of feeding on the inside, that larva burrows out of the stem, drops to the ground, and digs down in and spends the winter there. Okay, where it goes from a larva to a cocoon and winters over. So that's the kind of the life cycle of that particular critter. Now, what about controls, Ellen? How can this be
So,
addressed?
so really, Mike, that might be the reason that we don't notice that there's a problem until it looks like our squash and pumpkins are dying, right? The
Yeah,
stems just
you're
kind
right.
of all, yeah,
Hmm.
because they only lay one egg and all that. Well, as far as controlling it, this is kind of interesting. And you and I have both read this in places that you can trap these in a bucket of water, but you have to make sure that bucket is yellow because the adults are attracted to yellow. Like we like certain colors and they happen to like yellow. And then, of course, they will die in the water. And Mike, you did say there are um, stores in Erie where you can buy yellow buckets.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Value
I
Home
guess I
Center.
don't want to do okay. I would do an advertisement.
Why
Okay,
not?
Value Home Center. Yep. So you can get your yellow buckets at Value Home Center.
It's got their big logo
Um,
on it.
yeah. The other thing is that you can spray at at the base of the plant during the egg laying time. You can use that BT, which is Bacillus thuringiensis, or carbaryl, which is 7, to kill the larva before it burrows into the plant. Or sometimes you might put a barrier of mulch at the base of the plant, and that could help. But it's hard to kill an egg with insecticide, and it's hard also to kill larvae once they're inside the plant. Okay, so once the larva goes inside the stem, you might have to like slice that stem open. I think, Mike, you mentioned this, remove the larva, and then cover that sliced stem again with soil, and new roots might develop, and you might be able to save that plant. One other way of controlling these squash vine borers is to plant a little later, start in mid-July. That's when the squash will miss that egg laying period and maybe avoid some problems with your plants.
Yeah, because if the plants are small, in
Mm-hmm.
mid-July, okay, the
Yeah.
the, the, the bugs are probably going to bypass them because they're looking for
Mm-hmm.
a stem that's got some kind of bulk to it. Okay, so
Yes.
they're looking
Yeah.
for so if your plants are still very young, okay, they're
Mm-hmm.
probably not going to pay attention to that. You know, uh, kind of an interesting insect really as to how
Mm-hmm.
it goes about and the fact that we hardly ever see it. But the other things that other crops that we were going to mention, cantaloupes. A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
do grow cantaloupes, and they are bothered a little bit by this squash vine borer, excuse me, also,
Mm-hmm.
as they are with aphids and cabbage worms and some of the cucumber beetles. And we've talked about those in previous programs, so we're not going to kind of go back and review that at
Okay.
this particular stage of the game. So keep an eye open for that. Or, well, and I guess after we told you you're not going to see it, why would you keep the eye open?
Yeah.
But one of the things that I wanted to mention is that you don't, when you spray that plant with that BT or that carbaryl, you don't have to spray the leaves or whatever. It's the base of
Yeah.
that plant. What's one of the nice things about it? You can really focus, okay, that control material down at the base where the roots are, and
Right.
and that will probably take care of it. You don't need to put it on the leaves or anything else. So, Ellen, it looks like we've used up our time for today. So I hope that is helpful. And next time around, we got a little bit of a different topic. So hope you're there then. Thank you now.
Mm-hmm.